Welcome back. Uh, Hello, Faye.
Hey,
We have another wonderful live stream for you today. We're going to be talking about babies today, Faye.
yeah. What I happen, I hasten
Sure.
to add.
So, specifically, we're going to be addressing some comments from Dr. James Cantor. Faye, tell us who Dr. James Cantor is for those who don't know.
He's a doctor specializing in sexology and has done a whole load of research on all sorts of things um, to do with sex, gender, um, orientation, disorders, everything.
And he's an OBGYN, right?
Didn't know that. Oh, right, dickhead. Sorry, yeah.
He is not. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Cantor does not specialize in obstetrics. He specializes in pedophilia. And generally, we are going to be talking about his findings from his own study. Do you know when the study happened, Faye?
No, we shall find out.
Yeah, I think we'll find out in just a minute. There is a warning here though. If you are thinking about commenting some hateful stuff about us or whatever, put it in the comment section. We will try our best to address it. Dr. Cantor does have some controversial opinions that a lot of people don't like, and that's okay because he's allowed to have those opinions. He's a qualified professional. So if you go on his Twitter page and you throw this hatred at him, he will likely throw it back at you, and he will come up with amazing counter arguments to what it is that you're trying to get across as far as your position on pedophilia, maps, whatever you want to call people dealing with minor attraction. So today
Well,
we're just,
usually he doesn't have an opinion. He is stating scientific research studies and meta studies and all sorts of things. So he's actually bringing the science to those answers.
right, and definitely, we want to kind of make sure that there's a distinction there. But I think let's see what he says in this clip from 60 Minutes Australia, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
We could tell in the beginning that something was different in these people, and it was something that was different in a way that they couldn't control. But we had no idea, is this the kind of thing that would be different from something that they learned over the course of life, or something that they were born with. That sex network, which is cabled together, is all cabled through that same chunk of connective tissue, which I found was different in the pedophiles. So it's not that these areas of the brain are different in the pedophiles, it's that the network that they're supposed to form isn't connected properly. So it's accidentally identifying things in the environment that should evoke a parental nurturant instinct, but instead it's provoking a sexual and erotic instinct, almost like a literal cross-wiring in the brain.
From all the science,
Yep.
from all your science, did it answer the question, are pedophiles born or made?
Interestingly, the science in general says that pedophiles appear to be born, not made. The stuff that we've seen that are different in pedophiles in their brain functioning is all stuff that doesn't happen during the course of life.
Are you saying that for the pedophile, their attraction to children is natural?
They experience it as natural. They did not pick it. They come to realize it over the course of life. The way that most of them describe it starts out like any of us. When they're, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, they get crushes on people around their age, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And then most of us, as we grow older, we continue to get crushes on and experience attractions to people roughly around our age, growing into adulthood as we grow into adulthood. For the pedophiles, however, when they start becoming 14, 15, 16, they're still getting crushes and finding themselves attracted to 8, 9, 10 years old. So it takes them until there's enough contrast between their own age and the people they're attracted to before they start realizing there's something different about them.
That implies it's not a choice for them, that it's actually a sexual orientation.
Correct. All the evidence suggests that they did not pick to be attracted to children any more than the rest of us picked to be.
And that's one of his most controversial things that he said, at least from what I get on his Twitter, that the sexual orientation part, right, Faye?
Yeah, I feel like I've watched more recent research where he's gone into, he spoke with an Irish, UK Irish woman who's she's a doctor as well, and she was specializing in something, and had him on her podcast, and he was stating the researched evidence of them being like much more likely to be left-handed, that it's the highway between the brain parts, the white matter, and a few other things where he stated actually these are things that are different, and because handedness is in the womb, is an inborn state.
Maybe he gets into this. I'm not sure. I'm not. I haven't watched this clip before, but I mean, ultimately, I've seen him talk about this as well. He's talked to me specifically about this.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Dr. Cantor helped develop our Map to Hope program. He consulted for a little bit in the development process. And if you are a MAP, if you are a minor attracted person, get on our website, HelpUsDefend.com, and learn more about our anonymous support groups. So just kind of, adding some clarity here. We don't necessarily have direct affiliation with Dr. Cantor, but definitely, I think we all in this community know about his work. And that's what we're kind of speaking of. And I'm not sure if he's going to specifically address that, Faye, but we'll find out.
Attracted to adults.
So that's a big call, isn't it?
It is a big call, and I don't make it easily. I don't think anybody makes it easily.
So, if it is biological, if the brain is wired that way, it also implies, doesn't it, that the wiring cannot be changed. There is no cure.
That's what it seems to suggest now. I hesitate ever to say that the future will not produce some technology that I could not predict. But we don't have any technology, we don't have any surgery, we don't have any intervention currently that really can impact the basic connective structure of the brain.
No medication.
No medication, no therapy, no surgery. That nobody's produced.
Well, aside from castration.
Well, that's not exactly a cure. That wouldn't turn a pedophile. Castration wouldn't turn a pedophile into a non-pedophile. Castration, of course, removes a person's sex drive. Now, that can be very beneficial. A lot of people who are attracted to something that they cannot enact would rather live a life without a sex drive than a sex drive they have to spend every minute of every day actively suppressing. But it's not a cure in the sense that it's turning a pedophile into a non-pedophile, that they will now be attracted to adults and be able to, have a relationship, become a parent and so on.
All right, maybe he doesn't address it here.
No,
but
I'm trying to think what a name is. Something O'Malley. It might be. I'll find it out. I've got you. I'll search it another day, and maybe we'll bring it back. We'll do a live on the more recent one podcast that I was listening to, where he'd brought actual research data studying, and it was to do with the left-handedness. That was the real solidifying thing that said, and because they're much more likely to be left-handed, that it sort of really cinched the idea that it's an inborn state, and probably to do with hormones or something that occurs in the body during pregnancy.
I'm trying to look through other videos where he's talked about this.
Google podcast, and I really feel like the surname's O'Malley, but I might be totally lying to you. And that could be something completely unrelated.
I think I got it.
And they're all doctors. It's a really interesting podcast. There was 2 women.
Well, he's done quite a few interviews on the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? If you're watching, please put them in the comment section and we will try and get to them. Earthly delights. So there is yeah, I really thought that he was going to address that in correlation of handedness. I got it.
Yeah.
This is the world's first reusable cotton swab.
I'm not going mad.
That the mechanism that mediates handedness would also play a role
in what somebody is attracted to in terms of age. And does that mean that there are more gay people who are left-handed, more people into sub-dom fetishes and stuff? Does it correlate with anything else?
Excellent question. The first part, why would they be connected? They're not connected in any this leads to this leads to
I
this
wasn't accusing all left-handed
way.
people of being sexual deviants, no.
Everybody always has to say that. And we also have to do the homosexuality, pedophilia distinction.
Caveat, yeah.
Exactly. There's no direct link. It's more... actually, it's a great example. You remember that old and basically true chestnut, correlation doesn't mean causation? We recite that almost reflexively. But what nobody points out is, well, what does it mean? There are 3 possibilities. When X correlates with Y, X could be causing Y could be causing X, or the one everybody forgets, there's a Z that causes both X and Y. So they come and go in frequency together, but there's no relationship between them. It's because they both come from the same. So a lot of these correlates that people talk about have that third variable thing. Neither one is causing the other, even though that's always everybody's gut reaction if they're trying to endorse whatever public policy. We want more of this, we want less of that, and so they start arguing for connections, where most of it is, sorry, there is no connection. It's because both come from this other thing. So the associations between hemispheric dominance, handedness, and sexuality appear to be one of those. Neither one really is related to the other. It's just that if something unusual goes on during brain development, handedness is one of the things that changes, and sexual interest pattern is one of the things that changes, but there's no relationship between the two. That said, handedness is usually the first thing we look at whenever we examine any new sexual interest pattern that comes to attention. Exactly, because it does seem to be different across the broad spectrum of them. It is higher in gay men than straight men, but not lesbians versus straight women. It is higher, again, in the pedophiles versus the non-pedophiles, and it's higher in a couple of the other paraphilias. So again, that doesn't mean any of these is related to any of the others. It's all that same Z. It's all that same something went different during development,
And these are just the many different sexual interest patterns that can change, and handedness, which can which can change. And one of the triggers of that change is testosterone.
When I use this ab stimulator I found online,
All right. So, I mean, he doesn't really go into it here in depth, but obviously we've both heard.
It's two women, and it might be Stella and Mally. But in here, I've watched this one as well because I sort of noticed his slick back hair. Yeah, he talks a lot about the research that's coming through and it being an inborn state, probably around Z rather than these other things. But the left-handedness thing and sexual orientation are the things that do change increasingly with left-handedness. So inborn.
So Joseph asked a question on YouTube. Started watching. Are you referring to neuroplasticity? I don't know that we are, Joseph. I think we're referring to a study that Dr. Cantor did a few years back, where he noticed that I think it was 30%. Is it 30%, Faye?
Of
30% of pedophiles, people that identified as MAPS, that they were left-handed. And I think the normal, I think it's like 5% or 7% of the population generally is left-handed, right? Am I getting my numbers crossed here?
I'm really bad at remembering numbers, so yeah, probably great. That's probably near enough. We're guessing. I'm guessing completely, but you probably got some kind of idea of what number that was. So let's run with it.
I watched it in the documentary. I think it was iPedophile. Let's see if I can find that really quickly.
Did you watch those documentaries with what's his name, Johnny Pelham?
No, I don't think so.
I think James Cantor was Dr. Cantor was on there as well because I liaised. Well, I liaised for that interview, and that again, I think he talked on it as well.
All right, here's an article from Vice. So this, yeah, I was correct here. So I'm gonna put this up on screen. Give me a second here. So in the mainstream population, somewhere between 8 and 10% are non-right-handed, but it was well over 30% with pedophiles. So he's talking about how he kind of made this connection or this correlation from the early 2000s. And he was specifically looking for some kind of pattern to kind of explain where pedophilia comes from. And yeah, so I heard him specifically talk about this in this one documentary. And yeah, so 30%. And you know, for us, we so Joseph was asking a follow-up. I was referencing the ability to change behaviors we are born with. So we're not necessarily. So I think I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for Faye, but I think I know what Faye would say in this arena, that we don't take the position that right now there's any kind of treatment that could stop someone from being a pedophile.
Or left-handed.
Or left-handed, yeah. I mean, we take the position that.
Gay.
Sorry?
Or gay. It's an inborn state. All these things are an inborn state that your body, you would have to really work hard. And it's sort of like conversion therapy. Does that work? No.
Yeah, and I mean, I know a lot of gay people that take great offense to being kind of clustered together with this. So let's kind of make that distinction that
We're doing inborn things. So
right.
left-handedness is part of it. So, you know, we've got to get beyond that stigma of conflation. We're not conflating, we're stating that these things are all inborn states. The X and the Y's from the Z, which is the difference in utero.
Yeah. So the position that we come from is a place of wanting to support someone who is dealing with this in trying to prevent them from harming a minor. And that's all we kind of look at from this lens. So we want to kind of be very clear about this. We're not trying to suggest that there is any kind of cure or anything like that. As Dr. Cantor stated, I mean, you know, we're not taking any kind of a different position. So generally, we want to offer support to people that deal with this issue so that they are a much more rounded person, because we take this position that we are wanting to prevent someone from doing something that is in their control, because offending is in their control. You know, maybe the very, very small minority of people don't have control of offending, but I think for the majority, we kind of look at it from a perspective of most people do have a perspective. Most people have the ability to prevent harm.
But it's important to say there that most people convicted of child sex offending, the studies reveal, are heterosexual men. So that's the vast majority are heterosexual men. So with paedophilia, with most sex offending against children, it's situational. It's men lashing out in a way that's unusual. And then there is paedophile.
It's more predatory in a position of authority or a control issue than it is about
in family. Yes, it's in home or within friendship or within the close organizations like kids clubs or whatever, people that they know well, and situational offending. With pedophiles or nepiophiles or even hebophiles that feel, I don't know, that they have a conflict with it or whatever. We're trying to create that safe space where they can be a person who has this. And yeah, if you need to talk about it, let's talk about it, but also holds them into a prevention empathy that says, if you are treated like a human being and you are empathized with what your life is and what you have to live with and how to live better with that and having support around that and places to go, signpostings, where there is therapy or support groups or other chat, phone, 24-hour phone services that are taking calls. So there's a lot of things available for people who are sexually attracted to children, don't want to offend, and just want to be able to talk about their life and be a person without being conflated with child sex offending. And then there's recidivism, which is people that don't ever want to offend again, which I also think is very noble work. And if someone has served their justice and they repent and they are working and devoting to difference and they never want to offend again, then that is worth supporting as well. So
absolutely. And we want to kind of make sure that where we come from is from this place of wanting to prevent harm. And that means that we believe that if people, maps in particular, aren't supported like this, that this could push them to harm. So if we don't give resources to people in the community that they live in, if we kind of step on them and shit on them and make the world a hostile place, they'll believe that there's no other alternative and there's nothing to kind of not harm for. Like there's no reason to not harm. They have got nothing to lose, because if somebody has something to lose, then they're more close to that edge of offending.
I think it's actually important to state that it's much more likely that they would take their own life, harm themselves before harming a child. Living with something like this, really in research with people who are either offenders against children or believe that they're a paedophile, state that they're a paedophile, that they conflict with this attraction, that they are that they live really harshly in their own head and body with something that they know is hated by the world, and they hate themselves, and they're much more likely to commit suicide. And when that happens, I believe, because children are finding this out about themselves. It's in puberty, and not long after that, so real late teens, early adulthood, that they think, oh God, I am really staying there. And with teenagers and young men committing suicide much more increasingly, I believe that people are much more likely to harm themselves than harm someone else when they're desperate like that without support. But what we're trying to sort of invest in is that if we help someone make a life and a support system and a world that they really can treasure, that they feel good in, that they can blossom within and be supported and not offending as well, or not ever have that problem, because a lot of minor people who are paedophilic would never sexually offend against a child. They have this desire, and they can think about it, but they wouldn't ever cross that line because they know children can't consent and it would damage them. So much gray area.
Maybe you can look into that. Maybe for next time that we go live, you can maybe see if this has been studied as far as like turning this inwards or offending outwardly. I think,
I'm sure I've heard it somewhere or read it somewhere, but yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's the case. But I mean, generally, you know, if you know someone, if you're watching now, if you know someone who may be struggling with something like this, or you're struggling yourself, reach out to us, HelpUsDefend.com. Our Map to Hope group is an anonymous virtual support group serving pretty much any adult who is a minor attracted person. And generally speaking, we believe that, and this is, come from Dr. Cantor, who has helped us develop this group, and other experts that we've consulted with, that this is a good thing. If you want support, you need support, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about your attraction, about anything in your life, but you're dealing also with this concurrently, then definitely reach out, register, sign up for our support group, and we will, get you hopefully attending our support group on a regular basis. That's all the time we have for today. Faye, any last thoughts?
Well, I could go on and on about this topic, but I should probably zip it now.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for watching, everyone. And again, if you're a MAP, get on our website and sign up for our support group. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.
Bye.
Oh, yeah.